Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. In this episode, we are going to finish up this video series and show you how we got to this point right here. I'm going to show you what we did as far as bodywork, things of that nature, and I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to go ahead and speed up this process to try to make it quick, cut through a lot of the fat, and just get right to the point. So there are a lot of the small details won't be there, but if you have questions, you're welcome to ask. I just want to get through this one for you guys so you guys can see how we got to this point. So let's go ahead and move forward. Okay, so just before we put on those wheels, guys, we are going to take off these ragged spools and, of course, put on some gold ones to match. So let's go ahead and put those on. Okay, guys, so what we're going to start doing right now is putting things back together and starting to build the bike back up from ground. As typical, I'm not going to show all that footage because it's pretty much just reversal of what you guys just saw. But I am going to start by putting the rear swing arm to the frame with the rear suspension. Then we'll probably move to maybe the front forks and triple tree, get the wheels together, get it stood up, get the subframe on. Then either the engine will go in or we'll put the wiring in and then the engine. I'm not sure yet, but we're going to flow through that. But I'm not going to show you all the little details. Just know that here in a second, you're about to see this change. Okay, so as you guys can see, we're getting it back together. The frame is now attached to the swing arm with the rear shock and the subframe, as well as the front triple tree is on right now with, as you can see, yes, the dirt bike style front bars. To just confirm to let you know, yes, we are going the naked style on this one. And the handlebar color should give you a choice of the accessory color that will be on this bike as well. So the next step up is going to be putting the wheels on and the front forks. Now I have to basically assemble the front forks. I bought some new ones and they're all disassembled. I'm not going to put that in video because I've never done it before and I'm not real comfortable or confident in it. So I'm going to go ahead and put those together on my own terms to make sure that they're right, get those installed, and I'll be right back to show you what it looks like. Okay guys, so change of sequence in the build. So we ran into a couple snags, not too big of a deal, but we're going to have to make some changes. Right now, if I was continuing the video, I'd be putting those wheels on right there. And they look great because they were gold anodized. However, if you look at them, they are, well, I don't know what they are. The guy that anodized them said they look like dog poo. I think I agree. So we're going to have to go a different route. So now that we know that anodizing is not going to work on our wheels, at least not for whoever's doing it locally, we are going to paint them to match the bike. So before I can finish putting the bike together, I have to finish the bodywork, which I really didn't want to do, but I have no choice. That said, that's kind of a giveaway. That was the color it was supposed to be. It was a specialized blue pearl, like a candy blue pearl. Nobody can seem to replicate that color, so we are not going to go with that color. What we're going to be going with is a different pearl paint, and I guess I'm going to have to paint the wheels to match. So right now we're going to start some of the bodywork and getting prepped ready. I kind of wanted the bike to be standing so I can visualize that as I was making changes to the fairings. But again, that's not really going to happen. So I'm just going to go ahead and sand and get ready to paint. And let me show you what it looks like coming up. Alright guys, so if I map this out right, here's a little bit of a rewind in the sequence of how this video is getting laid out. But here is the wheels. Obviously we are finishing them right now. First thing I had to do was hit it with a etched primer, which is the kind of army green color. Then take another black primer, kind of go within the insides where the gun is probably not going to reach. Next is going to be the black base coat. And there is the black base coat. And the clear coat. Hopefully you can kind of see the colors change there. Somewhat. The funny thing is, you guys are probably thinking, well man, it's the same color as the CBR. And it looks a lot like it, but it's not. It's not supposed to be anyhow. This color is actually supposed to be more of an amber and a rose gold called Immortal Pearl. And maybe it's because of the way the sunlight's shining or not shining on it. I'm not really sure. But still a cool color nonetheless, just not what I paid for. Seems to be the way my builds are. So anyways, there is some wheels. Let's get back to it. Okay, so just before we put on those wheels, guys, we are going to take off these ragged spools and, of course, put on some gold ones to match. So let's go ahead and put those on. Alright guys, real quick before we throw the wheels on, I'm going to go ahead and balance them. I went ahead and mounted the tires. I didn't record that because it's just kind of grueling fighting the wheel. So there's no real fun footage there. But if you want to mount and then balance your tires by yourself, really you could do it on the bike as long as the chain or whatever isn't hooked up or the brakes aren't hooked up. You want the wheel to spin freely if you don't want to buy the special balancing tool that it sits on, or you can make your own. In this particular situation, I went ahead and I had a bolt that fit through the front wheel. Just go ahead and level it so it's nice and even. Then what you can do is take the wheel, sit it on here, and I got an extra support slide on the outside here to hold it up. And then what's going to happen, give me a second, let me put this up here and I'll show you what it does. Okay, so here is the wheel with basically the board supporting on one side. You can see the vise is holding it on the other, perfectly level. Now what we want to do is we want to go ahead and we want to lightly spin this wheel. And what's going to happen is the wheel's going to eventually stop. You're going to see it kind of teeter-totter like the old pirate ship thing at the old county fair or whatever. Once it settles, you want to mark the top and set a small weight. I like to tape it to the actual tire. I don't like to stick it to the wheel because it's not going to be its official position yet. But anyways, it's going to be perfectly 12 degrees from that bottom, so the 12 o'clock position. Then you're going to spin the wheel again, and what you want to see is you want to see where that weight sits up, or where it basically ends up stopping at. Ideally, you want it at the 9 o'clock position. If it goes down back to the 6 o'clock position where the weight was, that means you have too much weight, you got to take some off. Or if it goes back to the 12 o'clock position, you need more weight on it, if that makes sense. So let's go ahead and get this thing balanced. Alright, so check it out, guys. There is my weight that is basically taped to the tire. This one in particular is a 1/4 ounce, so I want to go ahead and give it a real light spin again. I want to see where this wheel ends up. And they do say you can lightly slow it down with your finger, should you choose to do so. I don't know if that's cheating or not. I'd say if you just have the patience and wait, it'll stop on its own. But again, we're going to wait for it to stop on its own and see where this thing ends up. And here you see the pirate ship. So now it's basically swinging around this 12 o'clock position, which tells me I basically need more weight because it looks like it's going to settle back to the top where we started. So let me add another weight to it. Alright, our second weight added. Let's go ahead and spin it again. Nonetheless, you guys kind of get the point here. Again, we want it to end up at the 9 o'clock position. Let me show you when that's all done. So there you guys go. It's exactly 1.5 ounces of weight. It's more weight than I would like, but it is what it is. This is a brand new wheel, so, and brand new tire. The only thing that's used is the brake, so it's kind of odd that it has that much weight. I also typically like to get the weights that clip on the centers, but I don't have those. So if we're careful, we can put these on when we were able to get a hold of some of those after maybe putting some miles on the tires and let it wear in. We'll go ahead and replace those. So let me go ahead and put those on. Alright guys, so there's the weight installed. We're going to go ahead and put these wheels on. Alright, so there it is. You see the gold rear spools, our rear wheel on, with our upgraded 46 tooth 530 chain conversion and rear sprocket. So that's on now. All we got to do is get on that front wheel. So it's pretty cool how it's starting to look like a dirt bike. I think that's kind of neat. It's different. But now we are going to move forward. We're going to install our fancy new gold kickstand, as well as probably some of the brake hardware, calipers in the front, caliper in rear. And then we have to figure out if we're going to need longer brake lines and whatnot, because after we get the engine, we have to figure out if we need a longer clutch line and throttle cables. Typically you do. I didn't want to order them until I knew for sure, so we're going to get some of that put on, and we will move forward from here. Okay guys, so here we are with the wheels and everything on. I don't know if you noticed, but clearly I didn't. I'm an idiot. I had the front forks on backwards. I was looking at the brakes and I'm like, man, this doesn't look right. It's not matching up. And realized I had it backwards. So the wheel still has to be turned around. I just temporarily turned around the forks. And for those that don't know, I'm pretty sure that the wheel is set up. It's offset just a hair, so it doesn't really want to turn well when the wheel's on backwards. I'm sure that's on purpose. Nonetheless, if you look at the brake reservoir, or actually brake lever, compared to the actual line itself, it's about 4 inches short now, so we need a 4-inch length addition to it. Back caliper is on as well, but no surprise, we have different rear sets that are going on it, and guess what color they are? Yeah, gold. So those will be going on next, as well as spinning this wheel around. And basically what we're shooting for our first step is I want a rolling chassis, pretty much like a bicycle minus the pedals. I want to be able to move the thing and stop the thing and know that it's okay before I mount that heavy engine into it. So let's go ahead and get some little small stuff done. So here's the rear sets that we are going to be putting on. This is the brand here. I'm not going to say that out loud for obvious reasons. I don't know why they named that, but whatever. I did read a note on there that somebody said the rear brake has nowhere for the spring. If you look at the original one here, you can kind of see where the spring is. So I'll have to figure that part out. The other half too is we can get the left side rear set on because the engine's not on yet. We can't really put on the shifter unit. Part of the reason is because it has to stay out of the way for us to put the new oil filter on still and fill the oil up. So we'll be putting probably that part on and then trying to adapt or fit this side here to make that work. So let's go ahead and get this one on first. Okay, and so there is that. I decided to go ahead and use the OEM bolts to hold the main unit on. And the reason why, the aftermarket ones are longer, but it's not necessary, and the actual area where the head touches gives more support on, with the original. You can see it's a little bit rounder, so I feel like it fit in there a lot better. So I went ahead and used that. But let's go ahead and see if we can figure out the brake side. Okay, so before I mount this on there, I just wanted to show you guys how I did this. Again, there's no instructions for these, so a lot of you guys are probably scratching your head like, how do you do any of this? I don't personally care for the spring here for the rear brake light. The way it's set up, it's not that bad if you look at it from the front, but it's about all you can do with the supply bracket they give you. The factory bracket is kind of at an angle, as you can see there. This one is a complete 90, so it actually works. And then as far as spring back, you can see I went ahead and installed an extra washer and spring right here around the boot that basically returns it. Probably can't tell and can't do it one-handed, but it returns it pretty well from what I can tell. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna mount these, mount this on here and get the master cylinder mounted. I'll show you what it looks like when it's all on. All right, guys, so here it is installed. You can see the master cylinder's on here with the cap. It works. I don't know if I'm a fan of the cartoon gold, to be honest with you, but I guess we'll see when it's all built what it looks like with everything together. The problem with the gold is it seems like everything you buy is a slightly different shade, the anodizing, so there's almost impossible to match. I mean, heck, if you look at the other side, I mean, if you look at that gold compared to that, I mean, there's a world of difference, but that matches that, so, you know, and then they're both slightly different from the handlebars, but the handlebars are the same as the forks. It's what it is, but so you just have to wait till it's all done. But let's go ahead and move forward. So now we're going to go ahead and install the wire harness, that big old jumble mess you see laying there. There's quite a bit to this. Interlacing it between the rear tail is where I'm going to start. Then running it down through the frame and up over because it's got to go up to the gauges. So we're going to start laying that out and let me show you what it looks like when it's all together. Alright, to continue, you'll see the rear harness is together, even though it's hard to tell because there's wires laid everywhere. There's all the relays, the CDI, the batteries and whatnot. Just got wires kind of hanging over top of it right now because the next step is to get this thing in here. I went ahead and put the spark plugs in. I'm going to throw the coils in now since they're not really in the way, and it'll be easier to do it while the engine's out. Then I'm going to slide the engine up in. I'm going to get it bolted in, and then we'll start actually figuring out where to lay this wiring. One of the problems we'll have to deal with is the regulator. It used to be mounted like right on the outside, which is kind of ugly, so I'm going to try to get around that if we can hide it somehow or another. But again, I got to get the engine in there first before I can get any of that done, so let's go ahead and try to get that thing mounted in. I don't know the preferred method of mounting these engines when you don't have an actual engine hoist or stand, so here's what I'm doing. I was able to get the motor lifted up close enough to get 2 bolts in the front. Even though they don't necessarily reside here, they're holding the motor, and I was able to jack it up from the rear to pivot it to get the 2 rear bolts in. So now you'll see, if you can, I got a little ways to go. So if I take the jack, that's about perfect right there. Now I can slide in the bolts, secure the backs, and get all the fronts bolted up correctly. So that's how I did it. There's probably a ton of different ways to do it. It just happened to be the way that worked for me, so that's what it is. So here's the progress update so far. You can see a lot of the wiring has been completed into the center. Now again, we're just trying to figure out where to route all the regulator and everything. You can see I went probably a little crazy with the gold. That was fun. What the heck, why not? Anyways, just kind of getting everything wired up. So far it seems like everything works. I can flip the switch on. Everything cycles. It's going to show some errors for now because not everything's hooked up. I don't know if it starts or not. So it's not starting yet, but again, I don't have everything hooked up, so far so good. Let me keep moving forward. So for a quick tip, for those of you guys that are doing a similar project or maybe using this video to figure out wiring on your bike, do yourself a favor and download the factory service manual. They come with a color-coded wiring diagram as you see in front of you. I apologize, I don't have the link for it, but all I did again was just Google it and it popped right up, so it was really easy to find, and I believe it was free if I remember correctly. But it makes things a lot easier. I'm not going to say it makes it easy, but it does make it a lot easier. They basically break everything down for you. They show you every single color in each plug. They even label the colors of the plugs. Like you'll see this one here says black. This one says dark green. Again, it kind of makes it fairly simple for you. And then it'll even tell you what the plug is for, like 41. Then you look over here, air temperature sensor. So like it's fairly easy to figure out what goes where. But I just thought I'd throw that out there. Make sure you download the factory service manual to get the wiring diagram. Alright, so we're actually going to go ahead and throw on the exhaust, as you can see here. Again, just as reverse of taking it off, 2 rear bolts and the 8 front head bolts, and then just putting the slip-on on. And then I'm going to go through and I'm going to show you, I've got a couple more things to put on the front here to get the headlight and everything to work, on cables and all that, and then I'll go through and show you kind of what I did, what I used, and how I got everything to work. Alright guys, so the exhaust is on. Next, while we're down here, we're going to go ahead and put our upgraded 15-tooth 530 front sprocket on. It's a very simple process. Just make sure you get it into first gear since we don't have a chain on it. And we're going to use a 30mm impact. It'll break it loose. Put on the new one, we'll be good to go. And there you go, guys. It was really simple. I just urge everybody, whoever's doing this, make sure you use Loctite on that nut. In fact, every single nut that I put on a bike, if it's a suspension or if it's something that you indefinitely do not want to come loose for any reason whatsoever, make sure you put red Loctite. All other bolts, for the most part, I put blue. So just kind of FYI, you want to be safe. You don't want anything coming off. I hear a lot of horror stories, people's chain coming off or front sprocket coming off and basically cracking the front case here and destroying the motor. So just make sure that you put some Loctite on it. Anyhow, next step, we're going to go ahead and pull off that oil filter, put on the new oil filter, and fill it up full of oil because we are still waiting on some parts for this front end from people that suck. So rather than waiting on them, we're going to move forward and just start going whatever sequence we got. Alright, so we got the radiator on now, and the wiring is mostly stuffed inside there. You almost can't even tell. So it's fairly clean. The only thing I didn't like is I couldn't fit the second bolt in the stator here. Or I'm sorry, the regulator. Normally it would have fit, but it didn't. Because of the way the radiator fits, but it's still a nice flush look, especially with an aftermarket radiator, considering they usually aren't perfect. Fairly clean. You can see where I run the the clutch cable, all the way up, under, and over. And then if you look down here, it's kind of where the wiring is stuffed. There's really nowhere else to put it. What I am going to try to do, though, is I'm going to try to run the wiring going to the handlebars down underneath the gas tank, since that way, so I don't have to extend it. Plus it's fairly hidden, so I think it should come out pretty good there. So now what we have left to do is just a little bit of wiring. I've got to figure out the front brake situation. I've ordered another set of lines. We're going to see if they fit, so let's go ahead and try that out. Alright, so the airbox is temporarily in, as well as the front headlight. Still got to figure out how to cover a lot of that wiring up. You can see the DRLs that are on it right now, LEDs. Looks good. Now again, to get that brake. So there's the front brakes. Basically what I did, again, I ordered a Yamaha FZ1 front brake hose setup, and the reason I had is because, well, it's a naked bike. It's already got kind of super bike bars like this, so I figured it'd be a little bit longer, and by the pictures it looked like it was about 4 or 5 inches longer is what we needed, and it fit almost perfectly. You can see it's running from down here to our center point, and then down to the calipers itself. The only thing I haven't done is bolt this on because I got to do that when I put the front fender on. It's just sitting here for mock-up purposes. But yeah, that's what I used, FZ1. So if you guys are doing this project, there's a little bit that nobody will talk about or nobody will seem to tell you. So there it is. Let's move forward. Alright, so just real quick on the integrated tail, guys. It's pretty simple. It's one main plug for your tail and your brakes, and then you have 2 yellow wires that come out for the turn signals. They also add in these resistors to allow you to slow down the amount of flash. Now I don't have any front signals hooked up right now, but usually that makes it even faster. But mine isn't really a fast flash, so if I go ahead and turn it on, turn on a turning signal, looks pretty normal to me. So anyhow, It's not fast. It's perfect for me. I even tried hooking one of those up and it didn't make it any slower. So what it's worth, your left turn signal will be your gray harness. It'll be the brown wire. And the right hand signal will be the black harness with the green wire. Pretty straightforward. It's plug and play. Simply plug them in. I cut the wires shorter. I'm going to go ahead and wrap them up and tuck them out of the way. And then we're going to put the other half on. Alright guys, so there's the body. There is some work to still do. We do have to get a new horn. The other one was damaged, and just clicked. It didn't make any buzzing noises like it should. I will eventually put the sprocket cover on for obvious reasons. We gotta put the front turn signals on, which will actually be a different type, and they wrap around the bars here. It's pretty cool looking. I do have to get some kind of gauge mount, and then I will make a plastic thing that covers all the way around there so you don't see inside behind the headlights. And then a few other odds and ends. But pretty much getting there. We are waiting on the air temperature sensor so I can get it started. I did temporarily plug in one from a jet ski, and it went full rev. It scared the crap out of me, so I'm just going to wait till the other one comes in. But we're getting down to the wire here. We also do have to install a overflow bottle for the coolant. I don't really want it mounted to the side if I don't have to. Some people talked about mounting it inside the rear cowl because it could really be mounted just about anywhere. So that's potential there. I don't know yet for sure. But this is what it looks like right now, so let's move forward. Okay, so now it starts. I'm not really sure why or what the difference is, but it's running. It's about to run. Ooh, yes. You see what I meant. So, I don't know why it does that. I don't know if it's because of the temperature sensor, but whatever the reasoning is, I ain't touching it until I get the temperature sensor on. So, that said, let's go ahead and take a break. Alright guys, so since the attempt to first start it, and it running high red line, high revving, I haven't attempted to start it yet. What I figured out the problem was, at least what I think it was plug 20 and 21, which is the throttle assembly. One for cable, one for actual placement were backwards. So I swapped those back, and I'm hoping that fixed it. You can see there's a mess of coolant on the ground because I was just pouring coolant temporarily into the radiator. That overflow is obviously not staying there, just needs something on it temporarily. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to try to start it. I don't know what's going to happen, so let's find out. Turn the key on here. Put our prime. Ooh, good so far. As long as it doesn't rev high. It looks good. That sounds pretty good. Well, so far that's great. We got a good running bike. That's a good note. Keep in mind, you can still see there's crap flowing out of it. Again, this is just temporary. I gotta get that hooked up still. I've got a power commander that we're going to connect, but I wanted to start it first before I hook all that up. That's why the gas tank parts are taken apart. It's just kind of laying there right now. So we're going to get that installed. And then I think the last thing I need to do, I still need to put the front turn signals on and do the cover for the back of the headlight and gauge mount. And I think that's going to complete this bike. So let's go ahead and move forward. Alright guys, so I just hooked up the Power Commander. This is a Power Commander 3. It's actually pretty simple to do. All you're going to do, you're going to basically Velcro to the top of your ECU that's currently standing. Your main wire is going to run down the side here. You'll have to take out these two bolts to slide it in. The wire will run over here. You will disconnect your factory 9-pin harness, and you will plug one end of the Power Commander into the one side and the other end to the other. And as you can see there's dirt in it, but no big deal. Anyhow, then you're going to have a black ground. The black ground is connect to obviously your ground, and then you'll have one more wire, which is a gray wire. That is going to get spliced into your smaller harness over here on the all blue wire. Really simple. All you got to do after that is start the bike up, and then you can actually use software to tune it. I haven't done that yet, but I'm sure you guys can look on instructions and figure that part out. But it does start. It's ready to go. So let's move forward. All right, guys. So the turning signals are installed. Not real exciting. They're basically bands, LED bands that wrap around the shocks. I was kind of preferring they be black, but it's what it is. But they look pretty good when they're illuminated, I guess. So they work well. Pretty neat to look at, but those are installed and done. Let's move forward. Alright guys, so here's the bike all finally completed. So let me show you what we kind of ended up with the last few things that we had to do. As we already talked about, you know we did the specialty pearl color with the cartoon gold to match. What I ended up doing with the headlight and the gauges actually got 3 zip ties with mounting bolts that held it in place. Actually, it holds really well. And then I went ahead, as I told you, I had to go ahead and make a ABS plastic surround to cover all the wiring. Now, I'm not going to say that that looks OEM, but it looks a lot better than wires hanging, so we're going to run with it. What I ended up having to do, because the headlight was too far close, and the backside where the bulb is was hitting the frame, I had to make metal brackets with the CNC machine to pull it out about 1.5 inches to give distance and clearance there. So I don't know if you can kind of see underneath there or not. Not really, but nonetheless, that's what it looks like. So that's what we did for that. We did have to order new front brake rotors because they were slightly bent, and what was happening when I was trying to bleed the brakes, it kept on loosening as I moved the bike. I couldn't figure it out. It was actually widening open the brake calipers, and I was having to squeeze it back shut to get it to where it needed to be. So that was that problem solved. Moving on to the other side, temporarily we used this reservoir as a catch bottle. The reason I did that, I ordered a can style one. I was wanting to mount in the same place, and it didn't really look right or fit. This one was from the Viper build that we didn't use. We were using as a catch can, or going to. So right now it's temporary there. It's kind of cool looking, but ultimately I wanted to put something back in the tail. That didn't work out. There's not even enough room for a water bottle back there. So we're going to come up with a solution another day for that, but for now that's kind of what's staying. And that's pretty much it. You can see I put a nice phone mount under the bike so you can use Waze or whatever app you use when you ride. And that's pretty much it. So the bike runs fantastic. In fact, I haven't started it here in a minute. Let's go ahead and fire it up. We'll show you everything primed there. Let's go ahead and start it. Bike runs fantastic. So I hope you guys like the build. Like I said, it wasn't exactly as we planned. It never is, but I think it turned out pretty nice for a naked bike. It looks pretty slick. Not like an R6, just different, and that's what I like about it. So, for all of you who haven't already, please drop the thumbs up down below. If you haven't already, please subscribe. Please tell other people if you haven't already. Obviously, we get the channel to grow. The more people, the better. I'm going to turn this off real quick. And again, thanks for viewing. If you guys have more questions, please leave the comments below, but I appreciate you coming, and we'll see you in the next video.